Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric. I got a very fun and exciting video for you guys today because I'm playing Rubu Tribe. And if that doesn't sound familiar, that is because it is a canceled PlayStation 2 game that was previewed with a playable bill at E3 and also had some magazine previews and photographs published back in the day. Unfortunately, the game was never completed and never saw retail store shelves because it was clearly canceled. But the fun thing is, before this, there was about a minute and a half of grainy E3 footage available on YouTube. So I'm sure you're asking yourself, how am I playing this game today? Well, the Video Game Esoterica 7th Anniversary Celebration Extravaganza continues because you're going to be able to play this game today as well for absolutely nothing from me to you. And big thanks to UV app as well. I left his link in the description below to YouTube. Basically, I had help getting this thing set up because I had all of the source code, I had all of the build files for this, but I was having a little bit of trouble actually getting it into a file format that would be available to use on PlayStation 2 or on PCSX2 as I'm capturing it today. So another one I had help with. And as far as where this came from, let's just say it's going to have to stay between me and the person that sent it to me. But a lot of times people out there are very motivated to see work that took a long time actually showcased publicly. Now right now we're going through the unmodified build. There's actually going to be two versions of this available. The one that was on the E3 demo, as well as a modified ISO that's going to have basically all of the different levels that you could play in the game. You'll see here when you pause the screen, for some strange reason the sky turns black. Why that is, I do not know. And it's one of those things, this is absolutely a really fun demo, and the full game was supposed to be basically an open world sort of survival simi kind of thing. You have some dinosaurs here that you can fight, and you have some that are going to be your allies, and there's going to be different items in the world you can collect, including things you're able to capture. So obviously there was going to be a big kind of crafting or other survival mechanic in something like Rubu Tribe. Unfortunately, that isn't all here because of course this was a demo kind of demonstrating the overall gameplay style, the open world nature, and just how big of levels they could get, because honestly, I will say the environments here are pretty large for PlayStation 2, and it is kind of a bummer that this was never actually finished. You'll see the catch mechanic can be a little bit finicky, but I was able to catch whatever that is there. Kind of looks like a sea urchin except on land, and I have absolutely no idea what you're supposed to do with that. Now, I want you to know right off the top, I'm not showing you every single area in this game. I want you to actually discover it for yourself. So I'm kind of hiding some things that I discovered that maybe I just kind of want you to organically stumble across. But honestly, anytime I'm able to do something like this, I'm happy to do it because I love preserving these games. I love finding games that never actually came out that can still be played and making sure everyone gets in on the fun. And as far as what these little dudes are back here, I have absolutely no idea. Kind of look a little bit like a cross between a Chow from Sonic Adventure and a Chocobo as well. But honestly, I'm just going to call them all Bob. Their names are all Bob, and that is just now the lore for Rubu Tribe because we have no other information and I said it first. But all jokes aside, there really is something uniquely interesting here, and that really is the thing about finding lost games that weren't finished. Sometimes you just find something and you realize to yourself, it is 100% explainable as to why this never saw a retail release. Maybe the overall gameplay mechanic isn't great, maybe it doesn't control for hell, you're never quite sure why a game gets canceled, but a lot of time you can kind of feel that they really weren't on a good path when you play a prototype. But here with Rubu Tribe, I will honestly say that what I'm playing seems intriguing, and I would have loved to have seen this actually get finished. And if I can compare it to anything that did come out, even though it's not a perfect example, it kind of gives me some Star Fox Adventure vibes. Now, as far as the story is concerned, what is known, that gigantic animal in the back there that has the 3-mast ship on it would be where you were actually living as a tribe. And as far as the text of the overall press releases go, you were trying to get to the Mystic Land. What is that? Where is it? And how would you get there? I just do not know. Maybe you can discover more of that in the demo as you kind of poke around. But this is a really fun, really big world game, and I really wish that we could have actually seen where the developers were going with this, because for every single game that hits store shelves, there's probably a game out there that people were working on and for one reason or another never got there. Unfortunately, this Bob seems to be living alone, and I can't pick him up to reunite him with the other Bobs, so he's just gonna have to live there. Now, as far as the enemies in the game are concerned, they will attack you, but their AI definitely isn't final. But it's one of those things, it does enough of a job that you can attack them, they can attack you, and you can technically quote-unquote die. But here is a soundtrack sample, and I'll be right back with more. I mean, honestly, maybe soundscape would be a better definition than soundtrack, and those rumbles you heard were the thunderous footsteps of those beasts in the background, and it is accompanied by a lot of rumble. Now, when you go ahead and want to check something like this out, you're going to see that there are going to be two versions of this game, unmodified and modified. Modified is basically UV was able to find other levels in the data and then string them back together into the main menu so you could get into them. I'm showing you one that doesn't do much whatsoever, but I want you again to be able to go through this game and get that sense of discovery yourself, because I'm able to bring these things to you, but I don't want to spoil every single thing inside of them, because now for the first time, at least on this channel, you can play around with Rubu Tribe. And honestly, this is the type of thing that I will always do. I wish every single week I could bring you guys a lost game that's never been seen or played before, but unfortunately I have to wait for these things to come find me a lot of the times, because this was not a game I was hunting. But at this point in time, I feel like I'm relatively well known out there for being able to take in stuff like this with the guarantee that I will make sure it gets buttoned up, I'll make sure it gets out into the world, and I'll make sure that everyone can enjoy it for absolutely nothing. And again, if I could do it every week, I totally would, but it is a fun thing to do. And I've had these files maybe for a couple months now, and I was poking at them when I had spare time, but I went on Twitter, asked for help, and UV contacted me, and the rest is history, because they got it done in like 3 hours, where I had spent maybe 10 hours on it and had basically nothing going whatsoever, except a couple presumptions, because PlayStation 2 is not my knowledge area, it is arcade for sure. But a lot of the times in life, you need to know who to ask for help, and you need to know when to ask for help, so we definitely got this done with big assistance from UV. And just be aware that there's going to be two versions of this game. One's going to be marked as unmodified, and that is going to be the exact build of the E3 demo with nothing being touched whatsoever, other than getting it running on retail hardware and in PCSX 2. The unmodified version will be exactly that preservation standard. Now, as far as the modified version, more levels that weren't available in the main menu from the E3 demo have been added. So you can think of that one both as preservation, but also as being touched by human hands in 2025, so it isn't quote-unquote one-to-one original. No code has been changed, just more levels have been added in, but I figured I would kind of caveat that statement and just let everyone know that the modified version clearly has been modified from its original files. But again, this is the type of game that I definitely think would have done decently had it released. Sure, it doesn't really have a mascot, so maybe it would have been a little bit harder of a sell. And as far as the reason for cancellation, just basically one day they decided, as far as the publisher end is concerned, they didn't really want to fund it anymore. They were just going to pull the funding and basically shut the game down, which is unfortunate, but it's something that happens all the time in games. But I am curious, have you ever heard of this game before, and do you remember it being previewed back in the day? Because every single time I do something like this, even if it is a very obscure game, someone is always down in the comments saying they were waiting for that game, they were excited by it, and they were bummed out that it never actually came out. And it's one of those things, that's why this is fun. It's going to make somebody's day, maybe not mine, maybe not yours, because I knew of this game's existence, but it wasn't one that I was hunting for. But somebody out there watching now or soon to read about this in the news or be told by a friend is going to be absolutely 10 out of 10 happy they can play something like this. We're going to do one more quote-unquote soundtrack sample, 30 seconds, and I'll be right back with just a little bit more and how you can kind of find the game to play it. It's got some effective sound effects. If you can't tell already, a day and night cycle was planned on being in this game. I don't know if it would have been as fast as you see here. I'm presuming that it was actually sped up for the E3 demo, so publishers, people could explain that this is what the game would be like, but you would have to spend half an hour just playing around with that. So if you do want to play this game, it's one of those things, again, I can't link it below, but I'm sure your Uncle Lance Charleston has probably done something online to make sure it's archived for everyone. You can do with that again as you want to. but this is the type of thing that really does get my curiosity, because trust me, there are hundreds upon hundreds of canceled games out there that I do know exist out in the world, and unfortunately it just depends on who finds them as to what happens to them. If somebody who is a collector that wants things to be private, they want to be the only ones to ever play it, then you're never going to see these games again. If somebody like me gets a hold of them, I make sure everyone can enjoy them for all time, because it really is a true statement. When you are happy, it makes me happy. I love giving gifts, and you should see me at Christmas. I go absolutely wild. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.